Chapter-3. The next morning, she entered the dining room just to find only Wyatt present at the table. She paused. Where is he? Me. She was hoping there would be more than him after hearing what he said last night. She had time to mull it over and was a little angry at him. She was a person after all, and men should just go around kissing girls to see what they taste like, whatever that meant. Ma is collecting eggs and Logan and Pa are gone to work already, he said, looking at her. She looked at her watch. It was only 6:30 in the morning. We have early March mornings around here. March answered, knowing what she was thinking. The perks of owning a large spread. He gestured toward the platters of eggs, sausage, and bacon that his mother left on the table. Apparently, she left all of this for you. Something about you being too skinny, mime. She actually felt defensive because that was the second time Wyatt mentioned her weight, and she was still miffed and hurt about last night. I'm not that skinny. He set his mug down and looked at her for a moment. There was no mistaking her defensive tone. Then he took in her attire. How many bloody coveralls does this woman own? He thought to himself. Again, she had a pair of denim coveralls on when he thought she muddied up the only set she had. Feeling a little nervous, she cast him a wary glance and sat down to help herself to the breakfast. It actually smelled terrific, and she would be crazy to pass it up. No one cooked for her, and quite frankly, Dolly was an incredible cook. I never said that, he finally said, referring to her weight. She looked up at him. You did. His brows rose. When? Just now. Here is the text to convert. I was repeating what my MP mother said. I never said I agreed with it. She flushed slightly. Then there was last week. He looked a little confused. Last week you said I was a feather. After a moment he nodded, remembering that he did say that. I meant in comparison to Willie. What is the difference? I never said YMYFN Q imamu were scray MYMPNat. I personally think that they are just right. He said easily. This time her face flushed dark red. Well, why, you did bring it up. He continued like it didn't bother. A pleasant surprise. 58. Hi, I am at all to compliment a woman. Can we just talk about something else? He smiled, but hid it behind his cup of coffee. It was easy to see that his compliment embarrassed her. However, he had to admit that her defensiveness raised his interest more. He, honestly, YMP, didn't realize that she misunderstood that statement he made over brunch last week. Actually, he probably should have been a little more aware because of how naive she was, but he really wasn't accustomed to being around someone like her. That kiss alone should have told him everything. It was obvious that she wasn't all that experienced, even if she tasted as good as she did. One thing was certain, if another man had sampled that delicious mouth of hers, she definitely would not be single. His eyes guided over her and down to her mouth as she ate. She really did have a beautiful mouth. Her cousin was pretty, but Natalie was beautiful. She just didn't realize it. Sure, he finally said in answer to her question, how about you helping me scrub out a ranch truck after work? She darted her eyes to his. It took her a little less time to figure out that he was teasing her than she did back at the river about his phone. She smiled. I should be doing that for my memory for you. Well, it is that, or I start building the new barn that Pa wants. Another one? Here is the text to convert. Yes, it is easier to keep track of the calving if we are able to isolate the cows. She tipped her head, not understanding anything about cattle. He saw that and explained, it is easier to watch the mem with security cameras in the stalls that run outside every hour to check the herd. Here is the text to convert. Really? People do that? He nodded. They have been domesticated for so long that L.R. Wards. 59. We can have a lot of trouble with calving, especially if they do it for the first time. After that, we have a history MMI FNQI my OSQ. Is it cost effective? Now, that was an interesting question, coming from her, and one that he was very interested in answering. Yes, YMVMYMP. First, we can see if there is trouble, and we do not have to go hunt the cow in the herd if she is in trouble. It is very MMMYMM cost effective. We don't usually lose the calf, and we don't have to pay someone to go out every hour in the middle of the night. How do you know when they go in labor? We keep track of the breeding. Oh, she really had a lot to learn. Cattle ranching was very common around there, and she only knew the feed side of it. Just before 7:30 in the morning, they pulled up in front of her store. When does your sister get here? He said nonchalantly. If she doesn't have car trouble, she was thinking this evening. Here is the text to convert. The fair is next weekend. Did you want to invite her along so we can show her how we Texans like to have a good time? She tried, but she couldn't help her mouth from falling open. Well, here is the text to convert. Unless you are volunteering again this year. He continued, guiding his eyes to her mouth again. Jesus, it was so damn kissable. He thought to himself. Images of that mouth moving over his skin momentarily distracted him. How did he know she did that? She was sure he didn't notice her in the booth that year. Don't you have a date? No. I haven't asked any money, he said with a smirk. We wouldn't want to get in my OSQ. He looked amused at that statement. You wouldn't be. A pleasant surprise. Well, okay then, she said, hesitantly. Dad closes down the store that weekend, so I guess we can go. I will talk to Jenny MYMP when she comes. See why you then? It took every muscle fiber in his body to resist reaching for her. He wanted to taste her again. Actually, he would be lying if he didn't want more than that. He knew now that she felt damn good under those shapeless outfits. She got out of the truck, puzzled by that whole conversation. Was that him asking her and her sister out for next weekend? She made a frustrated noise under her breath and went up the stairs to the store. He made absolutely no sense. Was he just inviting her so he could keep an eye on her? It wasn't as if he blatantly asked her out. He just basically said that they hung out together. If she wasn't so darn stupid around him, she'd just ask, but she couldn't. She heard him last night. He said she was nothing. If he said it to her face, it would literally crush her. It was late that afternoon when she saw her sister's little Honda Civic pull up to the front of the store. Thankfully, it wasn't busy at the time, and she rushed out to meet her. Jenny was taller than her, slender and very pretty. As usual, she dressed if someone was just about to take her picture for a fashion magazine. Today she wore a very pretty pale green summer dress. They looked somewhat alike, but Jenny was always more sophisticated than she was. Her hair was shorter and more auburn, but they had the same eyes. Jenny squealed when she saw Natalie, who rushed down the front steps to embrace her. Here is the text to convert. Oh, gosh, Nat, I miss you. Me too. She looked past her to the front door of the store. Where's Dad? Somehow she expected her father to be there too. When Natalie didn't answer, she brought her attention back to her little sister. Is it worse? She asked, referring to his L.R. wards. 60. Alcoholism. She shrugged. It depends. Sometimes it is. She put her arm around her sister's shoulders. Well, I'm here now, so I can help around here. I bet you my MMMYT for some time off. I don't mind. It hasn't been that bad. She smiled down at her. You never complained, no matter how tough things were. Here is the text to convert, because my MMP weren't that bad. Ms. has it a lot worse. Jenny rolled her. My miss impacts like she does. She is 20,000,005 and still living at home because it is convenient for her. Jenny my MMP, Natalie said in a tone for Jenny to drop the subject. But she didn't. Well, she is. If she is so abused, she would not be living there still. We can't judge her situation. Certainly we can, Jenny said, looking at her younger sister. She sighed, seeing her wrinkle her brow in disapproval. I know. I have only been a social worker for just over a year, but I have seen some pretty horrific things compared to what Missy keeps telling us. She certainly doesn't act like a child that has been slapped around. We can't accuse her of lying either, Jenny. No, why, Mem, you are right. In fact, we have to take everything at face value. What does that mean? She knew without a doubt that her sister was more worldly than her because she had probably seen things that Natalie could not even imagine. It means she gave her sister a knowing look. That Missy never has any bruises. Most women that have been abused usually date a man who is like the abuser. Also, I have never seen Uncle Albert being the least bit menacing toward her. I think he's a pleasant surprise. 60, a lot like Dad when it comes to his booze. He just takes it to his room or the study and drinks alone. Furthermore, from the things you have told me, she doesn't hang out with men that hit her. That was true. Logan would never lay a hand on a woman. Come on, pumpkin. Show me the place, she said, wanting to change the subject and using a childhood nickname to distract her. Their mother had given it to her because she was a chubby baby, and it stuck through their childhood even after she slimmed down. Natalie would protect anyone that she thought was struggling with personal issues. That is one of the things she loved about her, but it also left her vulnerable to be hurt. Once the truth came out about Missy my OS lies, she knew Natalie would be really upset. In a YYYYFREMP, she was glad that she didn't have a job and was here so she could keep an eye on her younger sister. She had grown up a lot since she had last seen her 4 years ago. Oh, they talked just about every weekend on the phone, and she missed her like crazy. Natalie would believe anything anyone told her. The sisters walked up the steps to the store. Once inside, Jenny looked around the interior. Wow, you might have done a terrific job. Jen, her father's voice caught her attention. Dad! Exclamation. She ran forward as their father came down an aisle with his arms open. Jenny rushed forward and jumped into her father's arms. Natalie watched and bit her bottom lip. Jenny always seemed to shine in her parents' eyes. She was the smart one, the pretty one, and she went to college. She can't remember the last time her father embraced her. Nat, YMM Sim Mem My by FPFO were coming home. Well, just until I get on Mem My Y free fime meet. L. R. Wards. 63. Natalie, her father said over Jenny MMMY YMMYOSSYMMMYMMP head. Did YMMMYMMOYMOYMMMYMMP want to bring her luggage to the house? Dad, I'm quite capable of doing that. Jenny MMYMMP said. Nonsense. I will watch the store, and Natalie can do that while I spend some time with my free Mao. Natalie didn't wait for them to finish debating, and instead went out to Jenny Walsam YOSS from S car and took the 2 bags out of the back seat. She then walked around the store toward the house. She knew her sister felt bad about the way her parents treated her, but it wasn't her fault. She had long since gotten used to being second best. Normally, she might feel a twinge of jealousy over her father's favoritism, but she really didn't mind. She was preoccupied. Other things were starting to bother her, mostly about Wyatt. If Wyatt got a glimpse of her older sister, she would no longer exist. Natalie had to admit that she was very happy that her sister was with them. As usual, their father went to the den after supper with a bottle of whiskey, but at least Natalie had someone to talk to. Also, Jenny came back to the store and asked her to show her how to run the till and help with her job. The afternoon went quickly, and they laughed like they were teenagers all over again. Natalie never realized how lonely she had been for company. It was also Jenny that made supper. It was a wonderful spaghetti dinner, and they sat at the table well after they were done eating. I am sorry, my dad asked you to do that, Jenny said after a while. The luggage. I'm used to it. Well, en why moi free not why FP lackey, she said a little tersely. I never did understand our parents that way. I always forget my friend Jenny, Natalie said genuinely. Jenny smiled. I really miss you. A pleasant surprise. 64. Me too. I am going to help you in the store too. I know it will take a few days for me to get the hang of things, but that way you can take some time for yourself. I know Dad hardly has anything to do with it. I may love him, but I'm not stupid. I don't mind. I give myself a salary, and the store makes really good money. That's not the point. I am the oldest, and I should take more responsibility here. Dad always had a drinking problem, but I basically dumped him on my free time and went to school. Don't feel my empathy about that. I am really my why I'm proud oi fim yfq imu. Here is the text to convert. Maybe we can make arrangements for you to go this time. Did you still want to be a teacher? She nodded. I am though. Dad's health isn't as good as it was last year. He goes to the doctor every few months. I don't know exactly what is wrong because he won't tell me, but I suspect it is his liver with the amount that he drinks. He still won. He stopped drinking no matter what the doctor tells him. I have given up a long time ago on telling him that. Jenny said solemnly, it is the addiction. It is a selfish thing, and the only MMMYFNQ, EIMMYMMP person it frustrates is us, so I focus on time that we have left with him. Natalie looked away, thinking Jenny could say that, because she hadn't been living here for the past 4 years. But Natalie knew there wasn't much time left with him. He started looking pasty, and the white part of his eyes started discoloring. She read somewhere that it was because of liver damage. Soon she would be alone. Jenny would find a job and leave, and her father would die so she would have no one. Jenny easily made friends, whereas Natalie didn't. She loved her sister, but she knew that she didn't understand her. And as usual, Natalie felt her heart hammering wildly in her chest when he got out. Obviously, the truck still ran, and it looked spotless, so it was obvious that he cleaned it. She still felt terrible over that. She didn't even tell her sister because it was so embarrassing, and she felt completely incompetent. She watched him through the window by March 2023 at the till and thought he had grown more handsome in his absence. He was wearing a white Western cut shirt with black piping, black Stetson, and jeans fastened with a large, shiny belt buckle. Her eyes dropped to his worn boots as he came toward the stairs. You could always tell a cowboy at heart because of their boots. YMWY mats were well used. Even his walk was a testament to how darn masculine he was. It was a confident walk that spoke volumes. He trotted up the front steps and into the store, tipping his hat at her as he walked by. She quickly averted her gaze until he was down the aisle. What could she say? His very presence could render any woman speechless. Well, almost any woman. She suddenly heard her sister's voice and a deep chuckle follow. She had forgotten about Jenny, MMYMMYMMP, who was determined to pull her weight and help at the store from now on. All her hopes and dreams shattered in that moment. Even though she suspected that Wyatt would probably find her attractive, the reality of it hurt. After another minute, she heard his boots on the planked floor as he walked back down the aisle, followed by my sisters. It was nice to meet you. Wyatt set his supplies on the counter and stared down at the top of Natalie's head. Is that all for YMMYMU? She asked politely, like she would any customer, as she rang it up and placed them in bags. The whole time she was unable to meet his eyes. He drew his brows together, reached over the counter, a pleasant surprise. 66. Cupped her chin and made her raise her eyes to his. Okay, what is bothering you? She shrugged. Nothing. She thought she lied beautifully, but he didn't fall for it. He released her and placed his hands, palms down, on the counter. That's bull. She bit her bottom lip and his eyes went there. Stop that, honey. You will leave a mark. He liked her mouth, as pouty and perfect as it was. He certainly didn't want her to scar it. She instantly released her lip and looked at him. Now out with it. Was Willie in here? No. Here is the text to convert. She said, and that's all she said. He waited for her to elaborate, but she didn't. Sweetheart, I don't have time for 20 million questions. I have got a bloody fence to fix, he said with a slight edge while pointing to the bucket of fencing staple. He just bought. Now, I know you got some guff in there somewhere, so spill it. She focused on him as hard as it was and took a deep breath. What did she have to lose? She already knew that her fantasies were fading to dust. You never talked to me, she said softly. Talk to my friend, you? YMMP. Didn't this gal ever act predictable? Her eye mimes darted toward the direction that he had just come from, where her sister was. It took him a minute to figure out what she was referring to. When he finally understood, he had to prevent a smile from forming, because what she was thinking was ridiculous. His brows rose. I am talking to you right now, but you are not very forthcoming. I mean like that. She tipped her head in the direction of her sister, who suddenly appeared and cast her an amused glance as she arranged things on a shelf, purposely within hearing distance. She had lived here for 4 years, and that had never L.R. Wards, 67, walked up to her and started talking to her for no reason. May, because if I looked at you, you tailed it away from me. That's not true. Of course it was. Liar. It is not your sister I had in my arms the other day. He continued. Her eyes shot to his in surprise. And he, cheeks flushed, sparing a glance at Jenny, my MMP, who didn't seem to hear. What? He asked, seeing her expression. You told Logan it was nothing. He quirked a brow. Yeah, eavesdropping? I wasn't, she protested. I couldn't sleep. Here is the text to convert. He leaned forward so his face was only a few inches from hers. His voice became a husky deep whisper so her sister wouldn't hear. So, did you want me to inform your brother that you taste like warm honey? Her eyes shot wide and her breath caught in her throat. Ah, this started making sense now, he thought to himself. Did you want me to tell him that our little store girl boiled my blood over a kiss? Here is the text to convert. He continued in that same deep tone, while lifting a large hand and forming a curve with it. Or that my hand had the privilege of learning the contours of your perfectly shaped backside. Oh gosh, she finally breathed, unable to take her eyes away. Vaguely, she did remember his hand smoothing down her back and cupping her bottom. At the time, she was immersed in mud to her knees, and it was cold in contrast to his warm hand. She felt heat ebb low in her stomach at that memory. He stood erect and ran his eyes over her face. This time, his voice was back to normal. I mean, if me effin' Mao want him to tease the hell out of you, I can definitely tell him the truth. He's that. No, she protested, quickly with her cheeks flaming red. Also, I asked Yai my MMP to the fair this weekend. Quit being so damn insecure, he added irritably. Thinking about that kiss had him worked up all over again. She may not have been able to tell at the time, but it knocked him completely off balance. He knew he shouldn't have touched her, but that mouth of hers was exquisite. He was sure he'd never tasted anything so perfect. Well, it just seemed like you asked because she was new in town and you were being friendly. She stuttered. The corner of his mouth pulled up in a partial smile. You thought I was being friendly? Here is the text to convert. She nodded. He chuckled while shaking his head. Then he took his bags and left the store, without another word. He couldn't answer that statement. It was the most ridiculous thing he ever heard. Natalie went over to the window and stared at him in puzzlement. What did all of that mean? She wasn't brainless, but he kept throwing things out there that might indicate that he was interested in her. Then, when she got her hopes up, he would crush them. First, his forgotten kiss at the river, then telling Logan said that nothing was going on. On top of that, he was more talkative to Jenny than he had ever been with her, and when she was hurt over it, he twisted it into being her fault. Why MMI the frown, sis? Natalie turned and saw Jenny standing beside her. For some reason, she didn't hear her approach. Maybe it had something to do with that large, muscular man out in the parking lot. Now that is what a man should look like. He's that, Jenny said appreciatively, running her eyes over Wyatt, followed by a long whistle of appreciation. Natalie just stared at her. She loved her sister, but she didn't like that at all. Of course, Yim Y Mai and Matt was as sexy M.I.M. Pasin, but Jenny being interested in him worried her. What church does he go to? Because I would change religion in a minute to follow him around, her sister added. When she didn't answer for the second time, Jenny MYMYOSSMSS went to her. She was only teasing, but her sister was dead serious. It took her a moment to finally catch on to that expression of fear Natalie was wearing. She instantly regretted making light of her affections. She saw the way that gorgeous hunk of a cowboy was toward her baby sister, and it was obvious the affection was returned. Yours, huh? Mine? That handsome cowboy MMY Mon, YMYOSQIMMP. She nodded to YMWYYYY, who was just putting his bags in the back of the truck. Lord, look at how his butt looks in those jeans. They MMYYOSSYMMRIM me just right, or MNTY my MP, not one wrinkle. They MMY1YOSS re tight, but not too tight. It just goes to show how darn nice he is all over. Essie cleared her throat because Jenny was right. Jeans definitely were the choice of wear for Wyatt, and rightly so. Here is the text to convert. No, he is not mine, she finally said to answer Jenny. Question. Wyatt didn't belong to any MMYMMYME. However, she couldn't stop that wave of jealousy from wafting through her and settling in the pit of her stomach. She didn't want any other woman appreciating the Wyatt looked except for her. Sure he isn't. I saw the why may FV he touched you. You should have said something before he came in the store. I wouldn't have been so flirtatious. He is not mine. Jenny my. She felt the need to repeat herself, unable to help the blush that crept up her cheeks. And shame on YM num more spy ing. Jenny MMM laughed. Oh right, like I could pass up watching that sexy MMY man swagger back down the aisle. Natalie knew exactly how she felt. Still, she protested. He's not mine. No? So if I make a play MMYMP for him, that is okay. YYMMP. She grinned. Seeing her sister frown, yeah, okay. She said, forget I said anything. Natalie released an exasperated breath. Wah, fine. If you need to be so noisy, I have been crazy about him for many years, but he never noticed me. Jenny MMMYYMMYMMP looked down at her sister's denim coveralls and gray MMMYYMMYMP. Shirt, gee, I wonder why MYMY my mon. Then her eyes went to her hair. Why do you not invest in a pair of jeans and a blouse? She shrugged. What difference would it make? More than why my moo. Think. She reached behind her and pulled the elastic out of her hair. And wear your hair down. It's gorgeous. I regret ever cutting mine off. It wouldn't make a difference. I see the YNFME of women he dates. They MMI and Paul look like models. You are pretty too, Natalie. You just don't advertise it. Jenny MMMYYMMYMMP argued, you dress like YYMMONYMMOSQ. It wouldn't matter, she answered, watching Matt's truck pull away. Jenny pursed her lips, staring down at her little sister. She knew that they didn't give her much to go on. She had always felt guilty over the attention her parents gave her and how Natalie got displaced. Funny thing was, she never felt sorry for herself. She reached over and took her sister's hand and squeezed it, causing her to look at her. Why don't we go shopping in the city tomorrow? I will help you pick out some clothing. Here is the text to convert. Do I look that ragged? She said with a slight smile, knowing she did. You do dress like a boy, Emily Mon. She repeated, I dress like a nobody. She corrected. She always may free, says my thought her sister was prettier, and why fight it? Natalie, you said you were crazy about him. Why don't you invest a little more effort in yourself? L. What is the point? I can't believe my MP said that. Jenny MP said with frustration, that big handsome man likes you. Eat. Here is the text to convert. As he paused and stared at her for a moment. Have Moem ever had eat? Her sister's rising telltale blush answered that question before she finished. Oh Lord, no wonder why all of this makes sense now. You have? It was something they never discussed. They talked about boys they liked growing up, but not sex. In fact, the question near knocked her over. I went to college. She smirked as if that was the clearest explanation possible. Natalie rubbed her face with her hands. Matt's right. She burst. About what? I'm naive. Jenny laughed. Well, you are, but you are so damn lovable too. She gave her sister a mock glare. Natalie was wrong. That big strapping man did notice her. She just didn't know how to interpret the signs. He touched her with a rare gentleness that a man like that didn't display often. Jenny envied it instantly, but at the same time she was happy for her. Only the amazing thing about it was men only coveted women like that if they had slept with them, yet her sister just admitted that she was still a virgin. She sighed to herself. She should have known that it would have taken a special man to notice her baby sister the way she always saw her. She wished her Natalie had more confidence in herself. Jen, he then realized that she could help her out. Tomorrow, we are going shopping. I will make sure Dad is here to mind the store. Why am Matt wants to take us to the fair on Saturday. Natalie. I should have mentioned something yesterday, but I was excited to see when I am my Mao. Really? That sounds great. A real fair. How exciting, she said enthusiastically. He has a brother. Oh, do tell. Jenny lit up. Here is the text to convert. Don't get so excited. First, there is some things you need to know. He and Missy? Well, Logan broke up with her a few days ago. I just don't want you to get blindsided by it, Natalie explained. Missy went out with his brother? She asked, then shrugged. You know, it really doesn't matter, because I'm not worried about her feelings and I don't behave the way she does. So tell me about his brother. Natalie wished everyone would quit saying things about Miss Omen. She really wasn't that bad. Logan is about 25, but he is a hard worker. However, unlike that, he jokes around a lot. If he looks like that, she nodded toward the direction. Matt's truck had gone. I am game. What about Missy? Here is the text to convert. Natalie finally asked. What about her? Jenny said, lifting her carefully manicured brows. Logan's a dish too. Missy MMP said she wasn't done trying to get him back. How does Logan feel? She shrugged, I think. Well, it was physical. She flushed again. Jenny smiled.